Here right now with Lynne Abel, who heads up emergency operations here in Washington County. Earlier this week, we understood that Governor Scott's office, Governor of Florida, had addressed the issue of this county, along with multiple counties in this part of Florida, and talking about the emergency situation. Talk a little bit about how that works.
Okay, the governor did issue an executive order, and what that order has done is open up the door for us to address the emergency in a little more aggressive manner, both on the state and local levels. So we have a little more leeway responding as far as the sheriff's office, being able to keep folks off roads that they don't need to be on, things like that. It gives us a little more leeway in responding to the emergency, both on a state and local level.
So in the absence of that executive order, would you have to petition the state to be able to do certain things?
Yes.
That this executive order sort of a blanket
Yes.
gives you that ability?
That's correct. That is
Okay.
correct, yes.
Well, that's interesting. So I would imagine that that's a pretty weighty decision on the part of the state, and they don't do that frivolously.
That is true. During last year's flood event, the state was very aggressive with the conditions that were occurring here in northwest Florida, and in particularly the Escambia County, Santa Rosa County areas. A decision was made by the governor to issue the executive order, and it opened the door for us to make some decisions that would be a little more difficult to make. We could make them a little more quickly.
Yeah, interesting. And that's something of which I was completely unaware. We say that we are not impacted just by that water that falls from the sky upon us, but also from that water that flows from grounds higher than us, many
Yes.
times outside of our county lines.
Mm-hmm.
And some of that also coming from aquifers, which start well away from here because
Yeah.
of the nature of our limestone and karst ponds and so forth. So, as you pointed out earlier, even after it stops raining, the water
Mm-hmm.
can still continue to rise. And much of what we saw at Blue Lake was in the absence of any local rain. It was simply being reflected, or it was a reflection of water that was falling somewhere else.
Uh-huh.
Is there any good way to forecast? I know that you plan for the worst and you hope for the best, but is there a way to forecast as far as the state EOC is concerned for some of those occurrences?
Other than the river, creeks and streams, I don't know that we can adequately forecast.
I see that you've got a TV on here on the local weather. You guys certainly are plugged in. You guys have at your disposal all of the resources and many more than the average person has. That's got to be a very exciting situation, sometimes exciting in not such a good way, because you're being looked at as the person who's going to make the call in many cases.
Yeah.
However, what I'm leading up to is that you've got a group of people with whom you work, from the superintendent of schools to the sheriff's office to local police departments, EMS and fire services, huge volunteer force. All of this brain trust coming together to try to ensure the safety of the population. I would imagine that you enjoy a great working relationship with all of those agencies.
We do, and we appreciate it so much. And again, a group that you didn't mention, Public Works, they see these roads, they see these ponds every day. They drive them, they work them, and they know where. Typically, they're a good resource for knowing where we're going to have problems. And you're absolutely right. Everybody works together. We're all in this together. We don't have there are no disconnects.
And let me apologize to all of you Public Works employees. Certainly just a misstatement or an oversight on my part. They are a group of people, just like all the rest of the emergency services, who you don't think of on a day-to-day basis.
That's right.
You get mad at them because they've got a highway sign that says stop or slow. But at the end of the day, they're just doing their job, and they're just doing what it takes to keep us safe, to keep us moving in transportation in the way in which we want to. Just the other night, there seemed to be a little storm cell that might have affected the Wausau area, just north of Wausau on 77. I asked this because I've been asked the question several times, and I live relatively close to it. If you drive that road even today, lots of leaves and branches. It seems like for a period of about a half mile there may have been a mini twister or something. Any insight into that?
Now, again, the Weather Service could not confirm that any tornadoes had touched down. They didn't see any supercells or anything like that when they looked back. We called them immediately when we got the call. They were the first number that we called to see kind of what could be confirmed and if anything else was occurring. They did see something over in a neighboring county in Jackson County. And there were some strong thunderstorms that moved through. So from what they were seeing, they felt like it was straight line winds. Now, some that were on the ground indicated that they saw evidence that there was more of a twisting, type situation. So it's possible that there was a brief spin up. But as far as a confirmed tornado, we couldn't confirm that.
Are you getting any help from any other neighboring counties or agencies at this point? Or is our situation bad enough that we have outside agencies? And I know Red Cross has come in to man shelters, but aside from that, do we have any other agencies? And the reason I ask is because just yesterday morning in front of Tractor Supply, huge number of electrical trucks getting staged to just probably travel to our west or to our north. Right now, are we experiencing problems that are requiring outside agencies to come into Washington County?
As far as anyone coming in at this point, no. We do have, because the situation is so widespread, we do have some assistance with supplies coming to us from DOT. And we have had some other assistance from the state. We've requested some other supplies. But as far as any personnel coming in, no, at this point we don't have anything.
Do we have all of the raw materials that we need to continue to at least repair so that they're passable, our dirt roads, in light of the damage that we're seeing because of the flowing waters now? Or is there any kind of imminent danger of us not being able to repair our roads, or is that something of which you're even aware?
At this point, we don't know what all we've got as far as damage. The state is requesting that we put together a preliminary damage assessment and kind of determine what dollar figure we're looking at, and we're hoping to get that later today. Very rough estimate, but as far as all the damage that's been done, I spoke earlier about a piece of heavy equipment that was out on a road, a public works piece of equipment, and they were going to do an emergency repair, and in trying to get to the spot, they actually fell into a hole that was not there. I mean, the equipment was so heavy and the ground was so saturated, there was a pipe that just collapsed on them. And we're seeing problems, to quote a staff member from Public Works in the administrative office, we're actually finding problems that we didn't know we had in an area or two. So we just don't know what kind of repairs are going to be made. And of course, as far as having the materials here, no, we'll have to bring some more materials in probably to supply all of our needs.
And not to be frivolous about it, but maybe to make lemonade out of these very wet lemons. Maybe at the end of this emergency situation, we'll have found that we have found some of those problems that we are able to mitigate. And at the end of all of this, that maybe these roads will actually be in better condition than when they started.
Yes.
That doesn't help the heartburn of those who live on these roads and who have to have detours. But again, hats off to you for keeping everybody up to speed. Connie Welch sending out not just daily updates, but sometimes several times a day, every time somebody's impacted.